Hey everyone, Miss Richards here again today. We are going to do another review before we start into our regular 8th grade math. And some things that you need to know or remember is how to multiply by hand, how to find the square of a number, and how to find the square root of a number, a perfect square. So to multiply by hand, let's not forget what you do. You start in the lower right number. Okay, start at the lower right. And then we're going to multiply. At the top, we're going to go right to left. Okay, so multiply the top right to left. Okay, so let me go over it with you on the first one so that you remember. Okay, and so if we start at the lower, I should have said lower right. Sorry about that. Start at that lower right number. In this case, there's only one anyway, so we'll start at the 9. And we're going to start by multiplying 9 times 5, and that would be 45. So we're going to put the 5 down, and we're going to carry the 4. And then we're going to go 9 times 6. So we're moving when we multiply from right to left. So 9 times 6 is 54. Then we want to add that 4 that we carried. So 54 plus 4 is going to give us 58. And there's no other numbers to carry on to, so we're going to put that down. Now, something that we do here, we don't have any other steps because this was only a 1-digit number, so this is our answer. All right, let's try again. All right, do it again. Again, there's only a 1-digit number at the bottom, so that's our only choice to start with. So we're going to start with that 5, and we're going to move from right to left. So 5 times 4 is 20. So we'll put down the 0 and carry the 2. And then 5 times 2 gives us 10. Then we add that 2 that we carried, so we have 12. And this is our final answer. Those are pretty easy and learn them in elementary school, but just a reminder. Where some 8th graders have forgotten is when we do 2 digits or 3 digits by each other. Again, we want to start in the lower right. So at the bottom, we have a two-digit number. We have 83, but we want to start with that 3. And again, we're going to multiply the top from right to left. So we're going to go 3 times 4 is 12. Carry that 1. And then 3 times 2 gives us 6. Plus, we're going to add that one more. So that is 7. And that's our first part. Now we have to move to the 8. We also have to multiply the 8. But in order to move to the tens place, you have to put a 0 in the ones place here underneath. So now we can move to the tens place to that 8. And again, we're going to multiply from right to left. So 8 times 4 gives us 32. We'll put that 2 down. We're going to carry the 3, and I'm doing this in a different color because this one, we don't want to get confused with that. We already used that. So now we're going to do 8 times 2 is 16. Then we're going to add 3 more onto that to give us 19. And now we have 2 numbers, and what we do with those 2 numbers is we add them, if you recall. So if we add these up, right, 2 plus 0 is 2, 7 plus 2 is 9, nothing plus 9 is 9, and nothing plus 1 is 1. And so our final answer is 1,992. Woohoo! Okay, last one then. Again, use the same process because you have a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. You want to start in the lower right-hand corner. So we're going to start with that 1, and we're going to multiply. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 3 is 3. So nothing to carry this time. But when we move over to the 6, to the tens place, got to put that 0 in the ones place. And now we can do our multiplication. 6 times 5 is 30. So we're going to put the 0 down and carry the 3. And then 6 times 3 is 18. Plus we're going to add 3 more, 19, 20, 21. Put down the full 21. And now you've got the 2 numbers and you need to add them together to get our final answer. So 5 plus 0 is 5, 3 plus 0 is 3, 1 plus nothing is 1, and 2 plus nothing is 2, so we end up with 2,135 as our final answer. Now, hopefully you all remember how to do that, and if you didn't, it's important we do a refresher because you are going to need it in this course. The second thing you're going to need in this course is how to find the square of a number, okay? So the square of a number is when you have an exponent of 2. An exponent of 2 does not mean that you're going to multiply this 3 by 2. It's not 3 times 2. The square of a number is when we multiply a number by itself, okay? So a number multiplied by itself. So an exponent of 2 just means how many times that we multiply that base number by itself. So 3 squared really means 3 times 3. And that one's an easy one, because you learn that when you do your times table, and 3 times 3 is 9. Now, we learn 12s in our times tables as well. So we know this is 12 times 12. And some of you don't know your 12s very well. So you might have to write it out like we did above. If you don't know that, you write it out like this, and you do the same thing where you start at the bottom right, and you would do 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2. And then you would put a 0 down because you're going to move over to the 10 spot. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. And then you add them together if you're unsure. So 4 plus 0 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. And nothing plus 1 is 1. And so your answer is 144. Many of you are saying, oh, Miss Richards, I knew that. I know my 12s. If that's the case and you know the answer, go ahead and just write it. But if you don't know the answer, then you're going to have to write it out the long way. So 16s are not one that we memorize in elementary school usually. So that one, I would guess you would probably have to write that out. So we know that 16 squared is really 16 times 16. Okay, so we're going to start in our bottom right again. 6 times 6 is 36. And you want to carry that 3. And then we move over. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus we add that 3 onto that. Gives us 9. Now we're going to move. We're going to move to the 1 over here, but we have to put a 0 for our 1 space because we're moving to the 10 spot. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. Remember, we already used that 3, so we don't have to use it again. So we just put a 1 there. We add those together. 6 plus 0 is 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry the 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. And so that answer is 256. All right, last one, 21 squared. I'm going to let you try this one. 21 squared, again, you probably don't know that one by heart, so you might have to write it out like this. And I'll check this one with you later. But let's move on to the next section and the last section of what you need to know. So square root now is the opposite of this, okay? It's giving you a number like this, right? 256. And it's asking you what must have been times itself to get 256. And some of them are pretty easy, like 9. What number times itself is 9? A lot of us have that memorized. We know 3 times 3 is 9. So the square root is what number is used, and we'll do the symbol in a second. Sorry, I wrote over that. To multiply by itself. Oops. Oh my gosh, I can spell today. Going too fast. To get the answer. Okay, so the symbol for square root looks like this. Boop, it's called a radicand. Okay, and so there's our symbol for square root, and you'll see some examples below. So basically, there's going to be some easy ones and some more challenging ones, right? So the square root of 25, you're asking yourself, what number times itself equals 25? That is the question you're trying to come up with. So many of us know that 5 times 5 is 25. So the square root is simply 5. That's the answer. The answer to this question is 5. Okay, I'm just showing you the work of how to get it. Okay, again, another easy one to get us into this. So square root of 100 is asking you what number times itself equals 100. All right, and many of you, again, know your times tables, and even if you don't know all of them that well, many of you know that 10 times 10 is 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. Now, how do we get this, right? The reason it's actually called a square root is we're really talking about a square. It's asking you if you had a square where the area of that square was 100, then what would the side lengths be? What times itself gives you 100? They have to be the same for a square, right? So 10, if the 10 is the length and 10 is the width, well, 10 times 10 gives you the area 100. Same thing with 25. If you had a square and you had one side that was 5 and one side that was 5, you would get an area of 25. Now, the more challenging ones are the ones that are above our 12s that we don't really know, okay? And so 196, the square root of 196, it's like, oh, how do I know that without using a calculator? Unfortunately, the best method we have is guess and check, but you have to use kind of your intuition. So if you look at what some of our answers are up here, right? We already know that 12 times 12 is 144. Right? So we know that this has to be, it's got to be higher than 12 times 12. But 16 times 16 up here was 256, right? So we know it's between 12 and 16. So what do? We have to guess and check. So if you want to do that, you can start with 13. And then if that doesn't work, you can go with 14. You can go with 15. So I'm going to start with 13. So 13, and I would leave yourself some space here, because if we're wrong, then we got to do it again. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, let's move a space over. So we got to put a 0. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. Well, this is 9, this is 6, this is 1. So these are the right numbers, but the wrong order. So we're getting there, right? If 13 times 13 is 169, right? And we know it's not 16, it's either got to be 14 or 15, but we're getting close. So let's try 14. 14 times 14. All right, let's go. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 1 is 4. Put your 0 down to move to the 10th spot. 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 1 is 1. Let's add those up. Okay, 6 plus 0 is 6. Oh, that's the end number we need. 4 plus 4. Oh, I forgot to carry the 1 here. 4 times 4 is 16. I'm sorry about that. Wow. Okay, 4 times 4, when we did 4 times 4, we should have got 16. Put the 6 down, carry the 1. And then we should have done 1 times 1 plus 1 more. Or 4 times 1 plus 1 more. Wow, Miss Richards. Goodness, I got too much on my mind here. Okay, so that should have been 56. I'm sorry. One more time. This, when we first did this, we should have got 4 times 4 was 16. Carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 1 more gives us 5. Okay. Whew. 5 plus 4 is, in fact, 9. And then bring down our 1. 196 is what we wanted. So our answer is 14 is the square root of 196. Okay, 529, quite a bit higher. If you did the 21 times 21 up here, then that might give you a frame of reference. So let's check our answers to 21 times 21. 1 times 1 gives us 1. 1 times 2 gives us 2. Okay, put your 0 down, move to the tens place. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus nothing is 4. So you should have gotten 441 up here. Okay, so since we got 441, we know that this is higher than 21. I'm going to let you try this for the last one, and we will check it tomorrow. For your assignment today, you're going to do exactly this in exactly this order. So if you turn the page over, the first section is multiplying 2-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers. Great. The second section is a little confusing because it only says in the directions to find the square. So what it's missing on the numbers is this little 2. So it really means find the square of 3, or 3 squared. Find the square of 25. So all of these, we are trying to figure out that number times itself. For example, the first one, we got to do 3 times 3 and get that answer of 9, right? Second one, you would have to do 25 times 25 and then get the answer. Some of you might know that in your head. Some of you might not. You might have to do it the long way. And the last section is find the square root. It's got the little radicand on there. So that's asking you what number times itself is 25. And we already did that example. So that's on the front. We already did this example too. So you might find some answers from our notes. Okay, good luck and hope you found this helpful. Have a great day.